allowing us to use the other funds if we're over on the other. They're looking at the total line now. So when we go over on staff support, it digs into what we can do under professional services.
Okay, but if all of our budget is spent by, say, I don't know, May, do we not have a June meeting or?
It was implied that, yes.
Okay, but okay, so if it's not, we spend everything by December, we don't have anything for January, for June then? No meetings or anything?
Well, the fiscal year is through the end of June, so it would be like you're talking about spring if we don't have any money for spring.
If we exhaust our whole budget within a half a year, then.
Well, this will be a further discussion when we get there.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think,
why-
I can't imagine that they would all of a sudden just say we cannot do what we're supposed to do. So,
Okay.
I mean, that's another discussion.
Maybe they put the chair in jail.
Yes, I'm talking too much, yes. Yes. Okay, so anyway, the budget is before you. There is, if you notice, so the first month, this is the second month of the year. The first month for planning staff support, we had already spent 30%. This month, if you notice, it went up to 43. So we actually did better last month. But it's still 2 months into the year, and we're still at 43% of the year's budget. It just tells you. But the other ones, as you know, we're way below. 17% of the year has passed, as you can see at the top of the budget, and the other ones were way below the 17%. And you can see on professional services, the 875 that we okayed last month was taken out and billed and paid out to our services there. Okay, any other questions on the budget? Yes, go ahead. The plaques was professional services, and that we got in at last year's budget. It barely squeaked in. It was like the very last day of June that they paid it, and it went out of last year. Because that's what we proposed the money to come out of was last year. So it was out last year's.
Our budget has been the same since 2011.
Mm-hmm.
We should be
That is a very interesting question because I've asked county council about that, and I will be forwarding, I will be following up on that, asking for what was the pay rates for 2011 versus what are the pay rates now, and see what the differences are, and then use that as a negotiating tool to increase our planning development staff. But thank you, Commissioner Steinwalk, because I had just had a conversation with county council about that, if I could do that. And I think that would be a way to approach this. Any other questions on the budget? Okay. We don't have to approve it, we just move on. Okay, district reports, item number 7. This is individual commissioners may present brief reports that would be of interest to the public and or commission as a whole. No official action shall be taken on any individual matter. And I believe we have one district report today before, and I think Commissioner Duncan mentioned. Yeah, today.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Actually, Jonathan has something pulled up here on your screen. And what it is the first page of a draft nomination for a listing in the National Register of Historic Places for the Ballard Adobes, which are not located in Ballard. They're located in Los Olivos, but they are our historic landmark number 20. What we also have here is, can we see the other page, Jonathan, if we can? Okay, the Board of Supervisors just received this letter from the Department of Parks and Recreation, Office of Historic Preservation. And basically, it's telling the county that the state now will be looking at this recommendation for listing. And it's clearly an opportunity for the HLAC to weigh in support of a national and state listing for this really remarkable landmark. And you'll note in the third paragraph that it tells you that all national registers are automatically now included in the California Register of Historic Resources. And we might, perhaps Commissioner and I or another historian can tell us a little bit more about the relationship of these different jurisdictions. But basically, they'll be looking at the validity of the nomination. And if you want to read it, it's very interesting and long. And that's why I have not suggested to Jonathan that he copy it all out for you. But if you're interested in the San Ynez Valley history, it is an interesting document, and it's also quite specific in terms of the physical aspect of the adobes, showing you all the different buildings and when those additions occurred. And they're actually two separate adobes. They were linked, and then other things were added on to them over time. But a lot of this happened under the Rodamel and Rossi families' ownership. And they've actually provided a lot of the documentation for it, but it's been written up by Chattel, who we've seen other nominations filled out for us, notably the Santa Barbara Orchid Farm, for instance, that was provided by Chattel. Just to explain a little bit of the history here, the Ballard adobes were actually built at early stagecoach period, and Lewis actually owned the land, but he had a partner and friend, Ballard, who managed it when Lewis was absent. Hence, they're called named after Ballard. But Ballard only lived so long. In fact, in the last few months of his life, he married a woman, and then he died. And basically, then Lewis came back into town, took over control again of his properties, married his partner's wife, and then also established a township in Ballard's name a couple miles south. Hence the confusion as to the names. You have the township of Ballard, but the Ballard adobes are actually located at the southern end of Los Olivos. And that stage stop, in fact, was superseded by the stage stop at Maddie's Tavern. Felix Maddie basically took over that because he was providing a lot more services, obviously. So I just wanted to tell you that that's an opportunity for us to write a letter, I hope, to the state supporting the listings. Thank you.
I received this letter just to follow up on the same day that I think probably Lansing got, Mr. Duncan got it last week. It came up really quickly. And I talked to the planner and I said, I would like to bring in front of APLAC that would like to, I think we should write a letter in support of the national. So I guess it would just be a consensus. We don't vote on consensus for me to draft a letter, to send it. I believe the hearing isn't until November 7th. So I'll be sure to work on it on our letterhead for the meeting. Everyone's shaking their it's like it's a done deal. Okay.
Well, I forgot to ask the essential question is, who exactly is it the owners who were pursuing this? Or maybe I missed Lansing's explanation.
I did not speak on that because, in fact, I hadn't read all the way enough through the entire nomination to see that. Like I said, the information that's provided for it is basically from the families that previously owned the property for a number of years. It wasn't clear to me that the current owners were A, supporting it, or B, signing what might be necessary.
And, I know Lansing did a great description of the property, but if you want to see more, there's a nice description on our website about, you just go into Historic Landmarks number 20, and it has a nice description of pictures of it and a little history description. So it's, just go under county website, historic landmark number 20, and scroll through and you'll see pretty much what Lansing just.
Chair Kaufman Gray, I'd recommend, we do have time, I think, if you would draft the letter and bring it back at the October meeting so everyone can approve it.
Could do that.
So the current owners are all
More discussion on. Okay, we're still on district reports. Any other reports from district? Okay, well, we'll move on to our standard agenda. Standard agenda item number 8, designation of All Saints by the Sea Episcopal Church as a historic landmark. The County Historic Landmarks Advisory Commission, HLAC, will consider adoption of a resolution designating All Saints by the Sea Episcopal Church as a County of Santa Barbara Historic Landmark. HLAC will also consider determining that such action is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, pursuant to sections 15308 of the CEQA guidelines, as an action taken by a regulatory agency as authorized by local ordinance to assure the maintenance, restoration, enhancement, or protection of the environment, where the regulatory process involves procedures for protection of the environment. Property is 0.81 acre parcel, zoned 15-R-1, and shown on assessor's parcel number 009-332-009, located at 83 Eucalyptus Lane, the Montecito Community Plan. This is in the 1st Supervisorial District. So I guess I'll first go over a little background. As you remember, on June 10th, HLAC designated All Saints by the Sea Episcopal Church as Santa Barbara County Historic Landmark number 55. And that is what it is right now. It is Santa Barbara County Historic Landmark. The landmark designation is scheduled for final approval by the Santa Barbara County Board of Supervisors on October 15th, 2024. The 90-day period for approval by Board of Supervisors will lapse on September 10th. So tomorrow, the landmark that we designated will no longer be a landmark. Today, we're bringing forward to renominate All Saints by the Sea Episcopal Church as the Santa Barbara County Historic Landmark number 50. So basically, we're going through the motion of re-approving this nomination so that it can move on to the date of October 15th hearing on the Santa Barbara County Board of Supervisors. And I guess we should go through, and if there is any ex parte disclosures from commissioners, we need to go through that. Seeing none. So I guess we can go through questions. Now, we just basically wanted to, the idea is we had gone through the whole process of nominating this. So there might be some changes that people have. So we want to make sure that that is put out before we redo it, but we're not going to do the presentation. We did that before. And we're not having the applicant pay for the time of having their historian come before us to have to pay more money to rehear the same nomination. I guess let's go to questions. We have any questions from commissioners on this? I have a question for County Council, the CEQA question. So All Saints, I believe, is located in the coastal zone, correct? So it falls under CEQA for that. I had heard from someone that my question is, are there economic barriers such as fees to protecting the environment? Are they not allowed in the coastal zone under CEQA? In other words, since it's in the coastal zone, is there a CEQA that that there should not be economic barriers such as fees to protecting the environment? Because we are looking at, historic structure, which might fall under as an environmental protection. And we have been asked for the owners to pay for fees for, to bring this to the Board of Supervisors. And I was just wondering if this is something that falls under the coastal zone.
I have not looked into that question, but I could do that.
I just brought it out there. Someone mentioned it to me, and I thought, you know, we should look at all barriers because this is a CEQA approval. Any other questions on this nomination? Do you have any public comments?
We have received no requests to speak for this item. If anybody has a public comment on this item in the chat, please raise your hand. We have Mark Shatillo.
Go ahead. Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the commission, I'm Mark Shatillo, and I'm appearing today on behalf of All Saints by the Sea and wanted to express our appreciation for HLAC's support for the designation of the sanctuary and historical structures. And we also wanted to note it's our belief that there are other elements of this site that are eligible for recognition as having historical status. It's obviously beyond today's hearing scope, but we wanted to remind the commissioners that this is a continuing concern and interest, and invite your comment in support for recognition of the All Saints by the Sea campus as either a historical landscape and or a cultural landscape. And then finally, this area in which All Saints and many surrounding properties, really the area between the Biltmore and Miramar, represent a historical district. We believe that there's eligibility there, and obviously it's not the time for that, but I would encourage commissioner recognition and expect additional activity on that. And I would just comment, I've never, having appeared and been involved in numerous landmarking processes, I've never seen a case where the applicant for designation as a historical landmark is required to pay the fees associated with that. It obviously has a chilling effect. There are already impediments to landowner willingness and desire to landmark their property, but if they also have to pay for it, it's certainly going to have a chilling effect. And I think it's important for the county to keep this process as open as possible for eligible properties to be brought forward and protected. Thank you very much for your comment, the opportunity to present our comments, and we look forward to your action.
Thank you, Mr. Shatillo. Any other public comments?
Does anybody else wish to speak on this item? Okay, we'll close public comment.
Well, we want to move to just renominate the landmark. Someone want to do the motion?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, there is one thing I would suggest in terms of what might be slightly different compared to what we did before. If you remember, when we last heard this and adopted the previous resolution, we asked for some changes to the nomination because the criteria referenced weren't exactly the right ones, as it turned out. And then we heard subsequently from Post Hazeltine how, well, that was because they were relying upon a much older document and the standards were different at that time. And so we basically had the applicant paste together what was necessary in terms of addressing the criteria. So if you look at page 3 of the extension pages here, this shows what was pasted together in terms of the nomination to address that concern. And what I just would say is this is not as clear as it could be, and that's because simply the formatting lacks a little bit the way we usually do this. Usually what we do is when you refer to criterion A or criterion C or criterion D, you actually state it and then you address it. And all you have to do to see an example of this is what is in the nomination for the Cold Springs Canyon Bridge. That's on page 2 of their extension pages. And here it very clearly shows D, it is representative of the work of a notable builder, designer, or architect. And then it goes on with the text that says why that's consistent. Or F, it has a location with a unique physical characteristics or is a view or vista representing an established and familiar visual feature of a neighborhood. This is one of the ones that overlaps with that. But my point being is just this formatting is so much clearer. So what I would suggest is adopting our resolution, which is basically the same resolution but with only a date, ask that the nomination be revised so these criteria are clearly stated. And what that means is when it goes to the Board of Supervisors, it's that much clearer, which is a pretty small, basically textual amendment for clarity's sake. So I'd be willing to make a motion to that effect if there are.
Yeah, I just realized.
Mhm.
Before the motion.
Is a question, not a comment? Thank you. So in light of what Mr. Shatillo just was talking about, that there are other elements on the property which might be eligible and which would be, maybe want to be, can this nomination be amended in the future to include those elements? Or do they need to be all in now?
Let's do a history of. So it-
Just don't want to get locked in with the wording of, that we can't then subsequently, increase, add to. Oh, Sheila's right.
I was wondering if we could put language as to future amendments, including any amendment that in the future is designated.
I don't,
Or is it necessary? Because then if we amend it in the future, it would already be included in the resolution. We won't just reference back to.
yeah, I think if you're amending it, you'd go through the same process that you're going through now with, a nomination form and it would come to HLIC and go to the board. So I don't think it really adds anything to discuss amendments in the resolution.
So, then they would be charged as well.
Howard, make sure.
So just to make sure I'm clear, if elements come up later, a nomination has to be submitted for those elements as if nothing went before?
Yes. It incorporated the original resolution and with addition of the new elements to a new resolution. That's how,
Okay.
I believe is how it was done with,
I'm good with that.
because I think it said, you know, the historic landmark X was designated on before the dam. And then this, we are now adding this resolution. That's how it's worded, which supersedes the.
And who is making this, applying for this nomination? Owners or the committee?
It's something that
Commission.
no one's doing right now. It was just a discussion that Mr. Gentile mentioned as a possibility. in the future. So if someone wants to do it, they can do it.
But the current one is by the owners or,
Current one is by the owner,
okay,
and that is why there's these that you mentioned.
understand.
Okay, any more comments on this nomination? Renomination, I should say. Commissioner Nye.
I support the revisions that Commissioner Duncan has suggested. I think it's something their historian consultant can very quickly address, just to make things absolutely clear as this document goes down through the processes. Also, the idea of amending this resolution, this property in the future is an excellent one. And since the church's spokesperson has brought it to light, it sounds as if it's something they want to do, and to broaden the scope of this landmark is a great idea. And I understand there's some fairly old buildings on the property as well. So all of this would require, of course, another consultant, a history report and an application, but it's a great idea.
More comments before we go with the motion? I'll just reiterate, concur with Commissioner Nye about agreeing with adding the wording into the criterias into the nomination. And I think probably the best I think would be good is for the subcommittee on historic landmarks, look at this as a potential bringing it forward to the full commission, for us bringing it forward to add other elements to it, or look into you know, a historic district landscape potential addition to this resolution. It's something that we as a commission bring forward for it. And that's something, you know, subcommittee, see if it looks like it's going to be. So that's my comments. So someone's going to do the motion. I think Commissioner Duncan was going to start.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And obviously my comment is it was a no-brainer before in terms of designating this a historic landmark. And we were very pleased that the congregation brought it forward to us and went to the expense of having a historian work on the nomination and spend the time before us explaining the attributes of the church. So we're just very glad to perpetuate that and try and ensure that this is formalized by the Board of Supervisors, and hence our action today to set the clock ticking again with another 90 days. So I'd move that the County Historic Landmarks Advisory Commission adopt a resolution designating All Saints by the Sea Episcopal Church as a County of Santa Barbara historic landmark, and determine that the action is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act, and at the same time ask the nominator to revise section 12 so that the specific different criteria are actually listed individually. And that would be my motion.
Do we have a second to the motion?
I'll second.
Commissioner Snow, seconds. We should probably do a roll call vote on this. We'll do to my left to right. Oh, any discussions on this? No discussions? Okay, now we'll go to a vote. Commissioner Duncan,
Aye.
Commissioner Witosh,
Aye.
Commissioner Steinwalk, Commissioner Nye,
Aye.
Commissioner Snow,
I,
Commissioner Landwick,
What did you
I'm sorry, Commissioner Saloga,
Aye.
and Commissioner Malcolm. Aye. And Chair Kaufman Gray, aye. Okay, we have renominated it, and like I said, it's scheduled for October 15th for final. There's a preliminary, they always have to do a preliminary, which is October 3rd, but the actual supervisor's vote would be October 15th. Okay, let's move on to item number 9.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but someone is patiently waiting to speak. Perhaps maybe we could accommodate them if,
You want to move item number 11? You're from the chapel? Yeah, let's move item number 11 forward, so that way you don't have to wait much longer, because I know you probably drove over from San Ynez. So let's move on to agenda item number 11. It's the roof replacement of historic landmark number 1, the San Ramon Chapel. The County Historic Landmarks Advisory Commission, HLAC, will review, provide comments, and approve or deny the proposed re-roof of County of Santa Barbara Historic Landmark number 1, the San Ramon Chapel. Originally planning to replace like for like. However, the existing roofing is not that durable, 30-year comparable, and not in line with the period of the original structure of 1875. So the Chapel Preservation Committee is interested in 1, using a more durable roofing, and 2, considering something that is more in line with the time period. It originally had cedar shakes. They have records of what it was when they re-roofed in 1999. The church is in a high fire zone, and a fire-related cedar shake roof couldn't be cost prohibitive. Additionally, birds like to perch and poop on the spires, creating unsightly staining on the existing dark roof. The church would like various types of metal roofs that would have been used during the time period, and as well as decorative bird spikes to keep the birds away. The property is a 1.20 acre parcel, zone 7-R-1, and shown as assessors parcel number 129-201-021, located at 5077 Union Avenue in the Santa Maria Valley Rural Region. This is in the 4th Supervisorial District. Okay, so any ex partes from any of the commissioners? Any staff comments on this at all before we move forward?
No comments from staff.
Okay. Any clarifying questions to staff on this project? Okay, well, let's go ahead and move with the presentation. And please state your name.
Paul Hossel.
Go right ahead.
Okay. So I have been a parishioner at St. Louis de Montfort Parish who oversees the, I guess, the spiritual side of the San Ramon Chapel, and been attending the chapel with my family since as long as I can remember. So it's a place that's very dear to me. We did a restoration with under my family's company, Hossel Builders, in the, I think it was like 2010 or around that time. And I volunteered to do some of the work myself, some of the carpentry and estimating, budgeting, project management. Anyway, so I'm excited to be doing the next phase of the restoration. The roof was in decent shape when we did the big restoration back then. And so it's time to do I guess, the cap on it. So I have some photos that you guys requested. So an older photo, this would be yeah, there we go. This is the oldest photo that I know of that we have, probably around 1950 or so, maybe 1960. And this probably has 2 layers of asphalt shingles on it in that picture. The current, let's see, there was another layer that was added, and then it was re-roofed. You can scroll down to the next picture. So it's a current roof. It's a single layer of asphalt that was put on. But yeah, 3 layers of asphalt and cedar shingles were removed. So anyway, we would like to do something that is more durable. The wind is really bad in the springtime, and the roof is currently leaking. We would like to take care of this before the next rainy season. So, yeah, so as my email stated, we're looking to do something more durable, but also of the true to the time. I have a sample of a metal roof. There's 2. Well, I guess we can continue scrolling through the photos, and then I'll get to writing the samples. So there is a committee that actually owns the chapel, the Preservation Committee, so one of the members put together some of these pictures for you to consider. This is just a galvanized corrugated metal roof. We're wanting to do a standing seam roof, most likely. So if you scroll down, an example of a wood-sided church with a standing seam roof, and the color is similar to what we consider. You can scroll down. So again, a standing. This has a spire that is similar to the spires on the chapel. Very nicely executed by the craftsmen that put that spire together. So we're considering, so Metal Sales is a manufacturer of metal roofing. And so their standing seam pencil rib profile, it has a slight corrugation in the middle. See it on your handout screen. And then the sample I brought today, one of my roofing suppliers had it in the shop, so I was able to get a hold of it. Is the next one. So the striate. Because we're considering a darker color to complement, I guess, this original cedar shake color and the other shingle roofs that have been on the chapel. Let's see, my roofer that I've been coordinating this with, he recommended using some type of standing seam that has some variation in the middle of the panel to prevent what is referred to as oil canning. The darker colors, any slight imperfection, especially on a steeper pitch roof where you get to see a lot of the roof surface, any imperfections in the roof or imperfections in the substrate, it'll end up creating some I don't know, wobbliness in the finish. And depending on the time of day and the angle you're looking at it, it can look pretty bad. So, at least with the darker. So, the striated or the pencil rib kind of breaks up that flat plane in a decorative way. And then one thing I don't have with me is examples of metal roofs during that time period. I did look it up anyway. I don't have it true with me, but for sure standing seam, copper. See, and then I guess that takes us to colors. So this is an aluminum. I'm sorry, steel standing seam roof, 24 gauge, and then they have various colors that mimic weathered copper. Is what we're circled there, and then I have a color chart that my roofer provided for me that you guys can look at. Would you like me to pass that out now? Oh, great, you have it. Cool. Yeah.
I just, I couldn't see it at all from my.
That's it for my presentation. Okay. Actually, one last thing. The decorative spikes on the ridge of the roof. I don't know if you're familiar with the Enos Ranch house in the Enos Ranch development in Santa Maria, but that was something that again I just didn't put a picture. I forgot to get a picture of that, but that was what the San Ramon Chapel Preservation Committee was interested in, to keep the birds off. Yeah, so these panels, they so
Thank you. And thanks so much, Mr. Housel, for all your work, obviously over a number of years in maintaining this remarkable landmark. And this has always been a challenge for us too, in that there have been issues where people needed to change their roofing, and previously the materials used were not fire resistant. And that's been the problem for the most part. So I'm trying to figure out what would be as close as we could come to the feeling, let's say, of the original shake roof. And the thing, of course, that we know about that is that involves a whole lot of horizontal lines, not vertical lines. Is there any metal roof product that has a bunch of horizontal lines instead of so strongly vertical markings?
let's see. I know I haven't seen a metal shingle roof installed. I think we would, if we need to go with the shingle look, we would probably do like a presidential shingle, something that has that high profile, give that dimension of shake.
Mm-hmm.
Be more durable than the
You're talking about something that's composition, but is, yeah.
shingle, but
Mm.
higher dimension.
But you're not giving us that option because you want something that's going to last longer.
Yeah, that's the
I couldn't help but notice that there is one example here amongst the older churches, and it is obviously an older church that's actually got corrugated. Okay, now that obviously feels more in terms of an older look. Obviously, it's not the shingles, but it feels older and less modern, which the standing seam, unfortunately, just automatically sort of tells us modern. Have you looked at some options that used corrugated roofing?
I guess we are open to considering it. With corrugated, you end up with exposed fasteners that would need regular maintenance. And anyway, for sure, at least every 10 years, the washers on the exposed fasteners, they are coming, especially in windy areas. Santa Maria Valley.
So the method of attachment would not be as durable, and that's why.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Another question that really comes to mind when I look at the colors you've picked out, For myself, those all seem a little dark. And although there's obviously contrast, when we actually look at the oldest picture you've got an oldest picture, but this is black and white, obviously. And then at this point, you say this was probably asphalt. Okay. But underneath this, there were wood shingles. Okay. So I'm thinking more in terms of color, at least. Couldn't we get a color which suggested more old shingles that are maybe a little grayish, but not so dark? Because I'm afraid the tones you picked out here are all going to appear really dark. And that we don't necessarily want that much contrast, because we would rather that this roof, especially now since it might have a sort of modern look to it, disappears more in the sky, rather than calling out a marked contrast with obviously your white church. And white obviously is one of the hallmarks of the chapel. You know, it's a landmark you see from a ways away because of its situation and its color. But on the other hand, we don't necessarily need the contrast with the color. So that's one of my questions, obviously, is considering some different colorations that might be more evocative of the old wood. Okay. Thank you.
And I agree wholeheartedly.
And we're in comments, questions
Read
right now,
stuff.
so.
Oh, and questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
You wanna
Because
frame
of
it
the
as a
corrugate,
question?
are you thinking eventually of putting like solar panels on it? Because that would change it. And I know certain metal roofs, I have a corrugated roof that I purposely put on to make it very barn looking like. And a lot of the barns in Santa Ynez have that corrugated roof, and usually a silver color.
Mhm.
But you can't put panels on it, you can't attach to
Yeah.
it. But it also doesn't show bird poop.
Mhm.
So just, and I saw that metallic silver in there. I pulled that one out. It's very attractive with the old wooden buildings too.
Mhm.
Oh, and the other thing, the questions were with the Moody House that they changed. They put on a roof like that, and it was glaring. That's the only problem.
Yeah, it is, and it is the steep pitch. I think 12 pitch, so it'd be pretty shiny. But yeah, yes.
Two
yes.
years, yeah.
Commissioner Sluga, you have a question?
Yeah, may I ask, what's the life expectancy of the roof?
So a metal roof, depending on a standing seam metal roof, depending on paying attention to the maintenance or not, it should last minimum 50 years.
Right, that's good. I mean, whereas the corrugated with the surface fastenings
Yeah,
are problematic.
it would be several $1,000s of maintenance every 10 years. And it's a steep pitch,
Yeah.
awkward spot to get to, requiring a lift, especially at the spires. We're trying not to, for the sake of using the donor's money well, we're trying to make it last as long as possible. And the presidential shingle, asphalt shingle, is something we're open to. It's definitely fire rated. We wouldn't have to do any additional fire protection underneath it, and it would last. It would probably twice as long as this last.
Can you clarify what you just said?
Yeah. So it's commonly referred to as a presidential shingle from it's GAF, their Timberline presidential series. It's the manufacturer, and so asphalt shingles are rated by how heavy they are per square, and it ultimately results in a thickness of the shingle that will give it more dimension as the shingle is heavier, and also that thickness of the shingle adds weight, which keeps the shingle intact as it's lighter.
I'm still a little unclear. Are you comparing that presidential shingle to the standing seam metal roof?
So as an alternative option, if the metal roof is something that the commission isn't too thrilled about, to be more in compliance with the original.
But in terms of the life expectancy, which is better?
Metal roof would definitely outlast the residential shingle, probably by double.
Right. Okay, okay, that's what I would expect. Okay, thank you.
Any more questions? Commissioner Malcolm? Witosh, I'm sorry. I'm looking right at.
So I have questions about, have you looked into a composition, a mineral surface roofing underneath the metal roof, which would be a complete fire and water resistant membrane, and the metal roof then becomes merely an added piece. The reason I ask is, is that I'm very partial to the corrugated metal. I think it looks right for the building, the historic precedent and so forth. But I do understand about the problem of attaching the corrugated roof to a surface. They have washers that are rubber and other treated washers, which once nailed, they seal the hole, which would be the way to attach a metal, corrugated metal, to a waterproof membrane. And that membrane composition, 90-pound composition, tar and gravel, what is it called? Mineral surface, not tar and gravel, mineral surface, would be a permanent roof. So that could last as long as the metal roof covering. I think a presidential shingle, even the manufacturers don't guarantee more than 25 years.
They do come with they call it a lifetime, and really the expectancy is that it would last years.
Anyway, just to talk about the method of attaching a metal roof to a composition roof that would be achieve maybe both long-term rain and heat, and especially fire. That building is too valuable to lose to embers falling on a roof and lingering there and melting the asphalt and so on and so forth. Had been there, done that with my experience.
So so regarding your comment about the washers with the rubber gasket, we just replaced all the fasteners on a barn, exposed to the wind. What saw up there was so not only had the fasteners, because of probably the pressure of the wind on the roof, they had come up a little bit in some cases. The panels had lifted up completely. So the gasket had like sun rot. Every one of those little holes that wasn't sealed properly created little drips underneath, and it had a barrier, moisture barrier. But it's the asphalt or the mineral surface would be a lot more durable. I just said that anytime water gets past that initial barrier, it does start to deteriorate. If we could avoid that, that would be the best case scenario. But if that's where we need to go, according to your decision, that's what we'll do.
Your experience with the gasketed washers, what was that due to maybe a material defect or an installation defect? Normally those things are either rubber, they're really designed to last for a long time.
So what seemed to be the case was maybe some of them were over tightened a little bit and prematurely caused the gasket to rot in the sun. But even still, rubber that's sitting in the sun is only going to last so long. And part of the
Hmm.
maintenance of a exposed fast metal.
So in your case, the gaskets were installed on top of the metal and the nail went through that. I was thinking more of the rubber gaskets being installed under the metal and the nail would go through the rubber. So the rubber gasket is in fact protected.
Oh, so you would still want a gasket on top, though.
You would want that, and those will get weathered. But the one underneath that's protected it'd be a double gasket essentially. That's just an installation tweak. And it might, in the interest of facilitating this corrugated metal roof, it would be of interest. Anyway, but thank you for your report.
Still in questions here, Commissioner Saluga?
Are you planning to replace the sheathing on the roof before you put the new roofing on?
So that's to be determined. I think we aren't sure what the current condition is.
I would guess if you've got all of those layers of roofing on there and the sheathing is as old as you indicate, you better plan on it.
So it was, all the layers were stripped in 1999 and it was re-roofed then. So
Oh, you had new sheathing?
I'd imagine so. I'm just not sure at this point. So currently there's just the one layer of asphalt shingles on there.
Okay, we have Mr. Steinwell?
I'm not sure it's a question for you, and I'm not sure it's a question or a comment. Higher level issue. I also have a historic house. I did the presidential shingles. Looked like, say, more of the shake than the house looked like. I don't see, as a commissioner, if you made the Moody Sisters will take off their standing roof back to a shingle roof, as the original structure was, how we can consider a standing seam roof on chapel, which I love and adore, rather than your alternative, which they tell me left.
Yeah.
Any more questions? Let's move to public comments. Do we have any?
We do have one hand raised, Amber Long.
Amber Long?
Yep.
Go ahead, Amber.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. I wanted to bring up that the chapel is also a state historic landmark and is on the California Register for Historic Resources. And my concern would be that a metal roof would put it at risk for losing the integrity for being that kind of resource. The California State Parks website notes that it illustrates the transition of architecture between mission and then wood frame churches. And I do believe that something more like the shake, the presidential shingle, would be much more appropriate, that a metal roof would put it at risk for losing its integrity and read as modern, even if it was corrugated horizontal. And so I just wanted to provide that for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Long. Okay, any more comments?
I was the only hand to have raised.
And let's see, we're finished with questions. Everyone here answered the questions I was going to ask. Oh, a question, I guess. You're going through these dark colors. Wouldn't it show the bird droppings more on a dark color than if you did the lighter color that we seem to be going towards?
Kind of going with the flow of the preservation committee. So they've been kind of going back and forth on some things, but yes, yeah. So I guess the follow-up to that would be considering some decorative spikes on the and see if I don't mind, I can try to pull up a picture of the.
Okay. And we really didn't have any questions on the bird spikes as far as,
I've got a question, but it's a question for one of our commissioners, our historian. Okay, so like to ask Commissioner Nye, um, to help us try and evaluate both what Amber Long said, but also what's before us, in that we've already got a landmark, which obviously it's not a cedar single roofed structure now, hasn't been for a while. And that represents one issue in terms of integrity. And then moving towards so clearly a different material and a different style, how might that affect its integrity? Can you address that for us? Okay.
Yes, thank you. I agree that it would be a pretty significant impact on the historic quality of the building because the roof is massive. So you can't not see it. So I would certainly say that putting a modern looking metal roof would definitely call into a question the significance of the structure. It would maybe not remove the idea of significance, but it would certainly reduce the level of significance significantly. Significantly, yes.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Follow-up question about the original cedar shake roof. What color would that have been? And you were talking about a new roof, or are we talking about a weathered roof that's been there 100 years?
Well, if you look at the photo, which was in our packet, showing a roof, I guess it says current. So
Those are not cedar shakes, though, right?
no, but they're kind of woody looking.
They look like.
Yeah, and they're kind of faded brown. I would think that if they could come pretty close to that look, it would be a winning proposition in my.
So it's the color.
Well, it's color, but it's also the horizontal pattern. And that's would be my question about the presidential style, because everyone that I've seen is variegated. It doesn't have horizontal lining. It's overlap offsets, which for all I know, not knowing these matters, it may be a superior way to roof your house, but is not a historic look. And I just cringe driving around town, seeing what I think is the presidential pattern on some very nice old buildings. It just does not work. But maybe you know more about that. I'm sure you do than I do as to whether you can get the presidential without the staggered look is not a look that we want.
I guess with cedar, it has some, it's not a real clean line across. So I guess there's some room for interpretation there. But, yeah. So that we can do a fire rated cedar fake roof. If that's what we need to do. I just want to throw that out there. That is an option we're still open to as well. What I came to you with today was kind of where the preservation committee is leaning. And so yeah, if the presidential asphalt shingle is problematic, and I get that too. I mean, it's not this. That's real. I have it in the woods. I would do a fire rating. there's definitely variations in the presidential shingle. Yeah, very straight line.
Well, you're absolutely right. An actual shingle roof probably isn't as straight a line as is indicated on this, I guess, current. So I stand correct.
Cedar shingles that would,
Mhm.
yeah, that's probably not what was on it.
Right. I think this is another situation where the better part of valor would be to find a compromise. Going back to cedar, I'm not so sure is the way to go, just for many reasons, cost in particular.
Uh,
But some,
Force the roof to be able to
Yep.
hold it forward.
Yeah.
And then fire rated shingles are spendy.
so I would suggest that some form of composition roofing that you can generate a wood looking color that would also incorporate the best fire prevention materials as possible. But I think I think the metal roof is just not an option for me. Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner Knight. Okay, so we just had comments, public comments. So it looks like we're moving into regular commissioner comments now. So I think we should just move on into comments because it looks like we're not going to decide on the exact roof right now unless we can do a compromise up here. Because this is a decision that we can make. It's not like just giving recommendations. We actually make the decision on what type of roof. So I hate to delay them wanting to get this roof, but we might have to give our comments and then have them come back next month, early October. Hopefully we can get you a new roof before the rainy season starts. But I think that might be what we're looking at now. But let's move on to comments. I know Commissioner Whittock is waiting to speak, so we'll start with comments and we'll start with Commissioner Whittock.
So I'm persuaded and am waffling over this issue, but I have a third option that is just surfaced. They have synthetic material now that is made to is a permanent fire rated roof, lightweight. It has invariable thicknesses and is installed just like shingle shakes. So it has a rough profile, and it comes in different colors. It's very easy to install. It is installed just like shingles. Have you thought of that?
You know what? Did cross my mind. I guess honestly, I have not familiar with the installations of that product myself, and so maybe I just take it serious. But if I remember correctly, it's similar to the Hardy cement fiberboard. So yeah,
Yeah, it is. The company that I have worked with is called Cedure Shake, CED-UR. And there are other companies if you Google, but I was a disbeliever in this for forever. And a contractor brought this to my attention, and I, gave it the eye and looked at it, and he was very much advocating this, and we did it. They did it. They did an excellent job, and that roof is now on, and it was on, by the way, on a curved surface, so it was really interesting. But that is an option that would accomplish two. It would be the look-alike, and it would give you the weather and durability and fire protection. So, and it would be closer to what was originally there. And it would avoid the the downside of metal and asphalt shingles, which are excellent, but they also are very, linear. They don't have the meat that that shingles look has. Those are my comments.
Okay, we're into comments, final comments. Mr. Duncan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, Commissioner Witosh, for that recommendation. As I noted in my original question to you, this is not the first time this issue has come up before us. And I would note, you are landmark number one. So, you are a particularly valued landmark, I would say, and we want to maintain your integrity as much as we can, while at the same time facilitating the maintenance of such a valuable structure. And we understand that we can't ask you to do infinite efforts in terms of expense. But if you could look into some of these different options, I think we would very much appreciate it. Certainly a product that's going to have more horizontality that mimics the original shingle installation. Certainly you're going to be wanting to look for something that's durable. And I think, there's probably some sort of compromise there. And I would say a product that is a little bit lighter in color than all the samples you've shown here. I've looked at these others, and of course these are the standing seam metal, but I would say that the grays and these sort of taupe, or there's even one called old zinc, or one called antique patina. These will be closer to what an old shingle would look like. And I don't think you need the dark contrast because you've got a white church. Everything is going to contrast with that. So encouraging you to go to a lighter color and something, obviously, if it would be wood-like, it would be weathered wood-like is what we'd like. And obviously one of the advantages here is if you went to a material like that, it would be matte, not shiny, and it would have variation. And that's, you yourself spoke to the need for variation because it will telegraph any flaws in the roofing. Having variation in the material is something that I think will benefit and be more evocative of that original roofing material. So thank you for your continuing efforts and your patience as we try and preserve the church both in its physicality and its integrity.
So I'll be back October 14th.
Yeah, we're going to finish more comments
Oh, okay.
before, okay.
All right.
So, Commissioner Saluga.
Yes, we're looking at pictures of the product that you had suggested. And I like it. And I wonder if we could reach some kind of concurrence on that, if everybody is in agreement or could support that and avoid and make a decision and move on, is what I'm saying.
There comments here? Commissioner Snow?
I agree with fellow commissioners.
Sorry, Commissioner Snow, I have that picture you want me to put up there.
Is on television. It's more of the brown, the shake color, but they have a whole bunch of colors. And they even have on that website how they get together and how they do the ribs. I've never heard of it either. Thank you, Howard.
Okay.
That might be something.
So
Thank you for pulling it up.
I just want to say, first of all, thank you for bringing us pictures, which I requested, and also samples. It makes it so much easier when we have a sample of what it looks like. So again, thank you for both of that. It sounds like we in agreement, general agreement that the roof should be a lighter color, not the darker color. It seems like we have agreement here that the metal is out. You know, fortunately, you didn't know, but we just went through a long process with historic resource was put on, metal roof was put on, and it had to be removed. So, you know, we don't want to get in that situation. I think the idea of, sounds like some kind of a shake looking, horizontal looking roof is, you know, I think you've got our comments from that. And I don't think we really can make that decision right now because we want to see samples of what you actually want to do. And we'll make sure, if, you know, we bring this back in October, our October 14th meeting, we'll schedule it as the very first agenda item so that you won't have to wait. And hopefully we can approve this pretty quickly. But I think that is what we need to do, is have you come back. We call this tabling, I guess. Is that what you would call it? Move it next month?
You could have a motion to continue it to the next meeting.
Continue. And in the motion, let's have the applicant bring back some samples of what we pretty much gave you direction today for. So anyone wants to do the motion?
So moved. So I moved,
Here, I can't do the motion.
okay. Well, what, did you have it all written down there? And, but the motion to continue this and to ask the applicant to return
On October 14th.
on October 14th with samples and to consider maybe two different materials. And I think the words would be horizontal course lines. And I would like to add that Seador makes shingles and shakes. So the shingles are thinner and boring, and the shakes are high profile, rough, and interesting, which would be, I would suggest you look at those. And so that would be the motion in essence to continue with the,
And I will second.
okay.
Second discussion.
Mr. Chair, I would just suggest we don't necessarily have one brand name. The idea is it's the characteristics of the roofing that we're looking towards.
Okay. Okay, we'll just do a general, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain? Okay, we'll see you next month, and we'll try to make it really quick for you. We always try to not have extra expenses, and having you come back is delaying your project of needing a roof. So we will get through this as quickly as possible. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Okay, it is 11:45. Do you want to have a quick break, or do you want to just move on to the next agenda item? I hear a shake up and down, quick break. No? Okay, we'll move on. Okay, no break. Okay. Okay, we are moving back to agenda item number 9. This is the designation of Cold Spring Canyon Bridge as a historic landmark. The County Historic Landmarks Advisory Commission, HLAC, will be adopting a resolution designating the existing Cold Spring Canyon Bridge, number 51-0037, as a County of Santa Barbara historic landmark. The bridge is located at County Route Post Mile SB 154, Post Mile 2020, 95-23.19. This is in the 3rd Supervisorial District. I will first go over a little background. How this got to where we are today is way back in, I believe it's February, the subcommittee on deciding to bring nominations forward looked into the Cold Springs Canyon Bridge. And at that time, we decided to look into the possibility of making this a County of Santa Barbara historic landmark. In April, I got word, I inquired with Caltrans about if they had any objections to designating Cold Springs Bridge. And the Caltrans on April said they had no objections to a designation. On May 13th, we had an initial discussion on whether to initiate an application to designate Cold Spring Canyon Bridge. That was an HLAC meeting. And then on June 10th, 2024, HLAC authorized engaging Long Historic Preservation Services to prepare nomination. And on July 18th, Long Historic Preservation Services completed the nomination. On August 8th, the chair completed the peer review on the nomination. In the same period, the chair contacted our planner, Nicole Liu, to get her to start the process of getting this nomination to the Board of Supervisors, since we now know it's taking at least 12 weeks. So we wanted to get started to get it on the calendar of the Board of Supervisors. The Cold Springs Canyon Bridge is now tentatively on the Board of Supervisors calendar. As mentioned earlier, the calendar is very full. Originally, it looked like it was going to be on the December 3rd calendar date. We just got word this last week that it's going to move to December 10th. So today, if we were to officially nominate this nomination, it would be 90 days past by the time it got to the Board of Supervisors. So what I'm recommending as chair is that we go through as we're approving this, just as we're approving it today, any questions, changes, whatever we want to do to the resolution or to the nomination, and then bring it back next week or next month for the final approval. That way the nomination we don't have to bring it back a second time, even though we're actually going to be doing that, but we don't have to bring it for approval. We'll do the final approval at the October 10th meeting.
Will we lose our place in line with the,
No, they have, what's interesting is that when it looks like, we do approval, like we hire someone to do the nomination, we know we're bringing it forward. That is why I let the planner, Nicole Liu, know that to start working on it. So it is now in that date for that tentative day. I mean, everything is tentative. It could change at the last minute, but it's just the end of the year. There's a new Board of Supervisors, they take their seats at the first of the year. So there's a lot they want to get through at the end of the year, this current Board of Supervisors. So, so the idea is we'll go through just like as we're doing the nomination today. And then like we did for All Saints, we'll bring it back and just do a rubber stamp approval of, and we can have the changes shown to us at that time. So let's first start with any ex parte. Anyone has any ex parte on the Cold Springs Canyon Bridge? Any meetings or anything? Huh? You draw, yeah. Okay, so since HLAC brought this forward, and Amber Long is available for asking questions, but I, as chair, will be doing the presentation. And Amber Long will be available to answer any questions to the nomination that she did for us. So the Cold Spring Canyon Bridge is a deck-style steel bridge, a steel arch bridge completed in 1963, and it was opened for traffic in 1964. The structure has 9 spans, including 1 arch span and 8 steel girder approach spans. The bridge is 1,218 feet long with the arch main span of 700 feet. It rises over 400 feet above the canyon floor. The deck is supported by slender steel columns, bents, and 2 130-foot tall towers. The arch supports the steel girder subspans on steel column bents. The towers have 4-foot squared legs connected by 3 cross struts. The column bents have 2-foot squared box legs that are hinged at the top and bottom to allow for relative movement of the deck during temperature changes and unsymmetrical loading. The tallest of these slender columns is 93 feet tall. The steel plates that form the tower columns, floor beams, girders, and arches are welded steel. Physical alterations to this bridge. If some of you will remember that this bridge was seismically retrofitted in 1997, 1998. New asphalt concrete was laid in 2000 by Caltrans. An additional concrete K-rail was built on the roadway over the southwest abutment in 2006. A 9.5 foot tall barrier of inward curved, finely gridded mesh fence was added to the bridge for safety reasons in 2012. It retains after this adding of the safety railings, it does still retain its historical and architectural integrity. The railings that were in the mesh fence that was added is removable. So if it ever wanted to be removed, it can be removed. The Cold Springs Canyon Bridge is in the Santa Ynez Mountains, 13.5 miles northwest of the city of Santa Barbara, just northwest of San Marcos Pass. It is part of State Route 154 and is within the Los Padres National Forest. The surrounding area is rural and covered with native vegetation. Brief history of the bridge. The Cold Springs Canyon Bridge was an integral part of the California Division of Highways project to upgrade, relocate, and realign a 7-mile segment of SR 154 in the early 1960s through the San Marcos Pass. It is the largest steel arch bridge in California, and it was one of the first major arch structures in the U.S., comprised of all welded steel components. It is significant for its engineering and architectural design and as an important work of the Division of Highway Bridge Department and the American Bridge Division of U.S. Steel. The bridge is eligible for listing on the National Register of Historic Places at the state level under Criterion C as an important example of bridge design and engineering that demonstrates a maturation of steel arch bridge design and welded steel technology in California. It also represents a high aesthetic quality of contemporary design from that period. At the time it was evaluated in 2007, it was less than 50 years old, and it has exceptional importance under Criterion G for properties that achieve significance within the last 50 years. It was reevaluated in 2017 following the addition of the safety barrier, and Caltrans concluded that bridge was still eligible for the National Historic Register of Historic Places. The criterions for being eligible for the County of Santa Barbara falls under County Chapter 18A, Section 18A3. The Cold Springs Canyon Bridge is eligible as a county landmark under eligibility criteria D, F, G. Under D, it is representative of the work of a notable builder, designer, or architect. The Division of Highway Bridge Department and the American Bridge Steel Division of U.S. Steel are considered master builders and designers in relation to the National Register of Historic Places. The Bridge Department is noted for its exceptional design program that resulted in architecturally significant bridges throughout the state starting in the 1930s and continuing into the 1970s. F, it has a location with unique physical characteristics or is a view or vista representing an established and familiar visual feature of a neighborhood, community, or the county of Santa Barbara. The location of the Cold Springs Bridge on State Route 154 provides views and vistas that are now an established feature of the county in two ways. First, the view from the bridge over the Santa Ynez Valley is recognizable to all motorists who have been through the area and an impactful sight to new motorists. Second, the view of the bridge from Stagecoach Road is an established visual feature of the community. G, it embodies elements of architectural design, details, materials, or craftsmanship that represent a significant structural or architectural achievement or innovation. The Cold Springs Canyon Bridge is a significant structural and engineering achievement. It represents the maturation of steel arch bridge design and welded steel technology in California and is the largest steel arch bridge in the state. Section 13. The Cold Springs Canyon Bridge is eligible as a county landmark because it represents work of Division of Highway Bridge Department and the American Bridge Steel Division of U.S. Steel, notably bridge builders. The bridge provides established views and vistas from the bridge and to those viewing the bridge from Stagecoach Road. The bridge is also significant structural and engineering achievement in bridge design and construction. So we have pictures that had been taken for the nomination, which are in front of you. Pictures that actually I took from below on Stagecoach Road. And then go ahead, Jonathan, you can move to the next one. And it has been recognized. There's plaques. The one plaque at the top you see in front of you is the civil engineering landmark plaque from 2004. That is at the bottom of Stagecoach Road looking up. And then the other plaque you see there is actually attached to the bridge. And I think the only other thing in the nomination report is the location map. Maybe scroll back, Jonathan, it probably has that there. Yeah, there's the location map of 154. And then there's the property location marked is the other map. So that is the presentation. Like I say, it's been a long process since February to get to where we are today. And so we can open up with clarifying questions. And this is a time I think that Amber Long is online that we could ask questions to Amber if you have any questions concerning the report or the nomination. Commissioner Duncan?
Yes. So I'd obviously want to thank Ms. Long for her nomination and the work she did in putting this together. It's a fascinating project, and it's obviously something that you enjoy doing. One thing I wondered about is looking at the criteria that are listed under page 2, and this is one of your additional sheets, and it's talking about D, F, and G. At the very end of G, it talks about the bridge being the largest steel arch bridge in the state. And what I'm wondering about is, I believe this was true when it was built, but I'm not sure if that's true now. It still might be a reason to refer to this, because if it was the largest steel arch bridge in the state at the time, that's obviously an innovation and a structural and architectural achievement. Can you speak to this?
Thank you, Commissioner. You are correct in that it was at that time. I'm currently researching as we talk to see if it remains that way, and I can give you an update on that.
Well, this, obviously that would affect how we actually word this. Certainly the fact that it is the really relevant thing, I think. And that was the only question I have. I have a couple other thoughts in terms of things that might be added to the nomination, but that's not a question.
Yeah, I think we're going to have questions on two things. First, on the nomination, which I think we're doing now, and then we'll do questions on the resolution. To make it clear. So let's stick to questions on the nomination. Any more questions on this nomination? Here, it looks good. Okay, yes. No questions. Okay, now the resolution, let's move to the resolution for questions. I want to go over a few things, why this might look a little different than other resolutions that we've had. It was informed by County Council that there's a new state law that was passed, I believe, within the year that restricts on what a county can impose on a state property. This bridge is owned by the state of California. So normally we would have wording that's a little strong as far as having to come to us for decisions on a historic landmark. And since of this new law, we have to be a little careful. So if you look under the second page on 2, like A, B, the wording is, let me just go under 2A, except as set forth in subsequent C below, demolition, removal, or destruction, partially or entirely, or willful negligence resulting in loss of historic integrity is prohibited unless an application has been submitted to the Historic Landmarks Advisory Commission for comments, and the applicant has considered the comments of the commission. So normally it might say, you know, they have to come to us for a final decision. They're just going to be able to come to us for comments, and then we want them to at least take our comments to heart. And that has been changed in a lot of these. And I have to say, you know, our relationship with Caltrans has been very good. They always seem to come to us anyway for every little thing. So I don't think we really have to worry that much, state of California. But I just wanted to point that out. The other thing I want to point out that this should be landmark number 57 if we go in how we've done our landmark so far. We have 55 is All Saints, 56 is Taffy Residence, so this would be number 57. The resolution number isn't really known until after I think it's approved by the Board of Supervisors, so this probably will be 3, but that's going to. That was just just wanted to bring your attention about this resolution that's in front of you. And I don't know, County Council, do you want to go over anything? Because I know we had to go back and forth to get this wording. And I have to say, Commissioner Nye is the one who did the initial of this resolution, so I want to thank him for getting us started on this.
I would just add it was not a new statute. It was more a new case that came out that I was working with.
It's a what?
A new case.
New case. Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Questions on the resolution?
Yes, like in my package of things, I had sort of an extra first page. And then one of the pages has text that's been highlighted, suggesting that it's either added or changed, but then the other isn't. So which page 1 am I looking at, even though one of them is labeled page, well, no, it just says it's one of page 4, but I don't know which one it is. So the one that's on the screen now is the one that we're supposed to be using.
There's one in the agenda, online agenda that I printed out that doesn't have that highlighting in A.
I forget where I got mine. It's the box or from the packet. I think this was, I printed mine from the box and it doesn't have the highlight on A.
Okay. Well,
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Okay. Only thing I saw was highlighted is the first page in yellow.
okay. But there's one where there is no assessor's parcel number, and there's one where assessor's parcel number is not included. Which are we supposed to be using?
The one where it's not included.
Well, that was a discussion we were having about the APM because the bridge is not prop the land. It's like floating. Commissioner Malcolm.
Yes, well, thank you for pointing out that in 2A because I missed that detail. But my question is, why would we want to dilute conditions like that?
That's a county council question.
So there's case law that discusses I'll read from this case. It's called, second, Regions of University of California versus Superior Court from June 2024. And it says, regulations that require construction to be overseen by local supervisors ceases to be a municipal affair once they're applied to state buildings. Generally, when the state engages in such sovereign activities as the construction and maintenance of its buildings, it is not subject to local regulations, absent express legislative or constitutional waiver of that sovereign immunity. So I take that to read that our normal conditions of having approval authority would be questionable. So we just revised it to say that they would come to you for comments.
Mr. Chair, so the issue here is because Caltrans owns the property?
Right.
Right, okay, thank you. So the state owns the property, so it's essentially equivalent to this University of California case.
I think so.
Commissioner Mel?
Basically, the state can't be fought, even though that's a local landmark, doesn't matter. The state wins no matter how valuable of a historic resource it is.
It's owned by the state.
Well, generally they have control over their buildings, but they have come to your commission for comments on this bridge in particular before. So I would expect that would continue.
Yeah.
I was at first concerned about that change, but I have to say the history we've had with Caltrans, I mean, they come to us for little tiny things for us to look into that I feel that I think that will continue with them. I mean, they did have questions, you know, like say paving. Well, we don't care about if they have to resurface the bridge. I mean, that was one of the main comments. Yes, but with this new ruling that came down, it just seems safer that we just put it as comment.
So this is just going to be for this resolution, not any others particular going forward?
No, it's anything that's owned by the state.
State, yeah, oh, that's okay.
resolution,
Thank you.
because we are going to discuss another bridge down the road.
Okay,
Later on today, and it would probably have to be the same wording for that one too.
Okay. that's understandable. Thank
As
you.
far as private property, no, we don't have to do that. Okay, we're still on resolution, comments, questions? So I guess we should go to public comment, make sure if there's anyone online that wants to speak on this matter as a nomination of Spring Canyon Bridge as a County of Santa Barbara Historic Land.
We have Amber Long raising her hand.
Okay, go ahead, Amber Long.
My apologies, this is not public comment, but it's in reference to the question about whether or not it is still the longest steel arch bridge in California. And that is correct. There are other longer steel bridges, but not a longer steel bridge of this type.
So the wording that we have
It might need a little refinement. Mhm.
this is the
Mhm.
largest steel.
Well, I think, why don't we actually have her rewrite the sentence to reference the fact that it was, and that's the important innovative aspect of it, and then also speak to what it is now with the appropriate adjectives in there so that we're true in both cases.
And then we can bring it
I,
back.
I don't see that that's necessary. By calling it a steel arch bridge, it's different than a steel bridge. So I don't see the point in revising the wording.
I'm not disagreeing with you, Commissioner Saloga. I'm just speaking to their two different issues. One, in terms of innovation, it's a was at the time of its development. And two, this, the status of it now in terms of making it unique. So I think we can address both in this sentence and speak to the unique character of the bridge.
Seeing as it has to come, we have to bring this back next month, it'd be easy to make that little correction change and have it for us for the final vote. If that's what we decide to do.
Are you asking Ms. Long to provide that language, or are you want me to try to draft that?
Well, Amber, I know we're being charged by Amber Long, just so everyone knows, her hour or whatever time, we're being billed for that. Do we want county council just to do that change and not have Amber do it? I see.
It would satisfy me.
Okay, could you repeat what that is then again?
So, so we will have county council, Amber Long, I'm sure you're online. We'll have county council do this minor change, and because we're just looking at our budget.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
can I just suggest two more while somebody is working on a typewriter? And that is in the actual nomination itself. On the second page, there are elements number 14 and 15, where we simply need to type in "see attached." So it doesn't look like we're missing something.
So on number 3 in the resolution, it currently says the structure is the largest steel arch bridge in the state. So you're asking, how do you want that changed?
Steel Arch Bridge. Does it say Steel Arch?
Yeah. That's-
Well, maybe there's actually two things. At the time of its construction, it was the largest steel arch bridge in the state and remains the largest steel arch bridge in the state. Isn't that the point we're making?
Kind of a hard thing to keep up with because somebody may come along and
Yep.
build a longer steel arch bridge, and somebody may reroute the highway and just discontinue it.
And so that's why we need to point out it was at the time of its building
I think
that's really
the
important.
the key element.
Okay. I'll run it by you.
Send an email. So okay, let's get back to number 14 on the form. You're saying number 14 and 15? Did you say there was a problem? I'm not, see attached. Okay, just add see it. Okay.
I think if you, that was designed to put a check mark in the box. And
Yeah,
then
it should be a little.
that's
check
all you
mark.
have to do. Right?
So do you
We
need
just-
something to say underneath, or just put a check mark where the box is?
I like having both
Having both. Is
for the clarity it provides.
that a consensus from
Sure,
everybody? Let's have both? Okay. 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 Okay, any more questions on this nomination? Let's move to comments. And like I say, this would be the chance to talk about this bridge. And we'll start with Commissioner Malcolm. Thank you.
Just wanted to mention that the suicide barrier. It is not historic. It is physically attached now, and it is meant to be fully reversible if deemed need be to take it off. So whoever is considering making the motion next month to specifically exclude the suicide barrier from the landmark designation.
That sounds very good. Any other Commissioner, we're in comments now.
To address that comment, I believe that the consultant report, I mean, we can do however we want to do it, but a consultant report was written documenting that the addition, the suicide barriers did not reduce the significance or impact the significance of the bridge. So I don't know if we need to get into this particular quagmire, but
Yeah, the report did, I remember it did say, the second report, which was the one that they did with the, it said that it didn't reduce significance because it could be removed, I think is how it was worded. So it's in that report saying it didn't affect the integrity, historic integrity. Mr. Malcolm. Because it could be removed. Yeah. Mr. Malcolm?
Well, back when it was being discussed, and this commission at that time saw through the fallacies of the arguments to put it up. Basically, one major point was the view, the experience from the bridge was diminished because of putting up something that, would obstruct the view. So, and to the historic integrity of that, yeah, the historic integrity is you had that nice view shed, and putting up that barrier diminished it. So that whatever report that's being referred to may not have thought of that. Maybe just to the structure itself, but as part of the view shed, it does diminish it.
Mr. Chair, I think I've got a suggestion here. Yeah. What we basically can do is a carve out, such as we did with the Chafee residence, and basically said, however, if you remove the suicide barrier, you don't have to come to us. Right? Essentially saying that just as, we give them the right to do the routine maintenance, you can add, you've got A, B, C, and you can add a D that basically carves out the removal of that barrier. And I think Commissioner Malcolm is correct in terms of the analysis. It's not like the analysis said it didn't have an impact. It said it did have an impact, but it was not sufficient to keep it from being listed as a landmark. Council?
Both are correct.
Yeah, Council, could we do that? A carve out essentially for the case of this removal of the suicide barrier?
Yes, we could.
Was that acceptable, Mr. Malcolm, to add
Sorry.
that to the resolution?
Forgive me, I missed something along
Yeah,
the way. It was
under
a lot
the
of information to
sections-
process.
On the resolution,
Uh-huh.
if you look at, let me grab it here. Page 2. Okay, 2C, it says include, it's underlined here. That's something we probably want to take out. Including all routine maintenance activities for operational functional purposes. That we can also, in that sentence, add the removal of the suicide barrier would not have that what you're looking at?
Mr. Chair, I think actually that the simplest way is to add a D,
D?
a
Okay.
D. And that D would speak to removal of the suicide barrier. And then you go back up to A, and we had this pointed out to us by the attorney of the Chafee residence. You have to make sure when you say except as set forth in subsection C, this is where we're going to actually add C and D, okay? Because there are going to be exceptions.
So it'll just be a D.
This would be a D, and we have to make sure we get D referred to in A. I think council can correct me, but I think that's what we need.
Okay, so we'll just add it. So it'll be in the actual resolution.
In regards to the suicide barrier being dismantled or what? I'm sorry. Or just for the maintenance of it? Okay, yeah, well, that's fine, yeah.
I think all we'd have to say is language which refers to the removal of the non-historic suicide barrier. You know, isn't that what we're talking about? Yeah.
Okay, so that's excluding my point from specifically taking out of the motion where that's part of the
Yeah,
landmark
it will
itself.
actually be in the resolution, so we don't need to add that when we do the motion. Okay, as you,
Okay, I just have to
and it sounds like county council will add this, bring it back to us so we can relook at it. And if we want to tweak it a little bit more, we can before we do the final. More comments on this? Okay, so we're not doing a vote on this, but I think we have a good consensus. The idea is I'll bring it back like this week's All Saints Episcopal Church. We'll just read the thing and then we'll just go ahead and vote on it. We can still do changes. Okay, so I guess we have a motion to have to table this for
Right, motion to continue.
motion to continue, not table. Someone would like to do that?
Mr. Chair? Yes, that I would move that the HLAC continue consideration of a landmark designation for the Cold Spring Canyon Bridge pending the necessary revisions, the requested revisions to both the nomination and the resolution.
Do you have a second on that?
Second. Oh, you have, wait, ladies first.
Commissioner Snow, second. Any further comments? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Okay. Let's have a quick 5 minutes. Can we do this in 5 minutes? Maybe 10. But let's try to do a 5-minute break and come back. We have one more item to go over.
I miss him.
Thank
Good idea. Grapes are on our vines again. Okay.
knows that area so well. Okay, welcome back, everybody. I want to call back to order after recess, after a break, the Historic Landmarks Advisory Commission meeting for September 9th, 2024. And we have one more agenda item, and that is item number 10. This is discussion of whether to initiate an application to investigate and potentially designate Arroyo Hondo Bridge. The County Historic Landmarks Advisory Commission will review, discuss, and provide comments on whether to initiate an application to investigate and potentially designate the existing Arroyo Hondo Bridge, number 51-27L, as a County of Santa Barbara Historic Landmark, and approval of professional services by Long Historic Preservation Services, LLC, for work up to $1,000 from our 2024-2025 professional service line item budget to create the nomination if HLAC decides to move forward with a possible nomination. The bridge is located at County Route Post Mile SP 101 EM 40.98. This is in the 2nd Supervisorial District. And so again, I was going to go over like I did in the past. This is a potential nomination that was originally brought by the subcommittee. So this is something that we as a HLAC is bringing forward if we want to move forward. In February 2024, the chair received the State of California Historic Report dated May 14th, 1979 from Caltrans District 5 for the Arroyo Hondo Bridge. And that was in your packet. In August 2024, new contact for District 5, Krista Kia. She's the branch chief of cultural resources. And I saw that she was online earlier. Checked with the State Cultural Studies Office, and they said that they had no objections to designating the Arroyo Hondo Bridge as a Santa Barbara County Historic Landmark. The state of California does own Arroyo Hondo Bridge. The surrounding land in this area is owned by the Land Trust for Santa Barbara County. Most of us will know that as named as the Arroyo Hondo Preserve. They recently bought the land that is on the ocean side of 101. So they own the land around the bridge. This past week, I'd been in contact with the land programs director, Leslie Chan, and she's thinks it's a very worthy project and is interested in knowing more. just wanted to let you know that I did contact the owner of the land around the bridge and the owner of the bridge, Caltrans. So, okay. Can you put up the historic report first, John? Yeah, that's good. Yeah, there, that's good, that's good. Okay, so, first of all, any ex parte on this before we get started? Okay. And, any clarifying questions before I start with the brief full report on the bridge? Yes. It's the state of California. There'll be Caltrans, yeah. Yeah, it's on, yeah, he signed it at the bottom.
So, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
in the minutes from the last meeting, August 12th, I'm looking at, it says here, Board of Supervisors Resolution 77-526, declaring the Arroyo Bureau Trail, Rattlesnake Trail, Hot Spring Trail, Romero Canyon Trail, Rincon Trail, and Fremont Trail. So the bridge is the only piece out of that?
No, this has nothing to do with that. That is a whole different discussion.
I see.
Last week on trails. And there was no further update on that this week, so I didn't go over that.
Fine.
But
I just,
I will
I understand.
have an update on that, but that is a different.
Okay.
This is just the bridge. And so any more questions? Okay, so let me just go over this briefly. The bridge is number 51-27L05-SB-101. This is a multi-span reinforced concrete open spandrel parabolic arch bridge. This was completed, and now originally it was constructed in 1918, I believe it says, but it was completed in 1919. So it was spanned 2 years. Final cost for the bridge construction was $87,804. It utilizes parabolic main arches surmounted by columns and round arches. This bridge, when you look, we'll show it to you later, you'll notice it looks familiar, and it is very similar to the Arroyo Seco Bridge in Pasadena. That bridge was built in 1913. So if you look at the two, you'll see there's a lot of similarity of what they look like. The Arroyo Hondo Bridge appears to meet national criteria for local level significance in the areas of engineering and architecture. It possesses integrity of location, design, setting, though it has somewhat been compromised by the new filled southbound 101 compared to what it was before, but it still meets the integrity of location. And locally, the bridge is by far the largest reinforced concrete open spandrel arch bridge in Santa Barbara. So go ahead, Jonathan, bring the pictures I did. Normally I go out and like the Cold Springs, I go and take pictures, look of it. And southbound 101 lately, where this is located, there used to be a lookout point that you could pull off and look. This is that bridge you see on your right as you pull off to go to the lookout point. Well, unfortunately, they're doing construction on 101 right there. It's like, I think it's still down to only one lane. So there's no way I could pull off to take pictures, and I couldn't go to lookout point. But I believe, and I'm going to be working with the Arroyo Hondo Preserve to find out more, what are they actually doing? Because I'm not quite sure what Caltrans is doing there, but I believe they're just upgrading that area. So eventually the lookout will be open again. And if you remember, when the lookout was open, you could walk down and cross this bridge as a pedestrian bridge. So what you're seeing in front of you today is something I just found on the internet, and it is copyrighted. So it's something we're not going to be able to put into our report, but I thought I would just go over it with you. And then hopefully, if we decide to move forward, I can take actual pictures that we can use. But the Arroyo Hondo Bridge, they say built in 1918 and photographed by just about everybody, which is true. It carried traffic in both directions of Highway 101 until 1950, when it was replaced by 4 lanes over a landfill with a culvert. The railroad trestle just to the south of it was built in 1896 and is very impressive also. There was also another bridge built just to the east of this over the Arroyo Quemado Canyon in 1917. The Arroyo Quemado Bridge is still carrying southbound traffic on the current 101. Just so you know, the Arroyo Quemado Bridge is also one that we were looking at as a possible landmark. But it does have problems because, as you know, it's very narrow. The freeway still goes over it. And we felt there might be a lot of pushback if we try to nominate something that might have to be changed in the future because it's too narrow. And Arroyo Hondo means deep creek in Spanish, and Arroyo Quemado means burnt creek. So the first thing is picture you see is a view of the top of the bridge adjacent to the trestle looking west. Now these pictures, when I looked at this, they all were taken in, I think it's 2003. So they're older pictures. Just scroll up the next picture. And now you can see the arches of the bridge. And if you've ever been to Pasadena and the Arroyo Seco Bridge, you could see the familiar, it looks very similar to the Arroyo Seco Bridge. Scroll up to the next section. This just shows you the old pullout that you could pull out and then park your car and then walk down. And then this is the trail walking down to the bridge that pedestrians can walk across. Scroll up to the next one. If you're going southbound 101, it's the ocean side. So you kind of peek to the right and you'll see that bridge, and then you'll see the railroad bridge too. And the pullout is just past that, or it was. I mean, right now it's been blocked off for a couple of months now. I mean, like I say, I'd like to know more what actually doing. I didn't get a chance to. Yeah, it's very hard to see. And unfortunately, I've noticed there's a lot of graffiti on the bridge right now, which is not shown in these pictures. So this page here just shows you what the bridge looked like. You imagine that was Highway 101. Two-way traffic was on there since 1950. And then here's a picture more looking from the railroad tracks to the current southbound 101, which you can see they filled in the whole canyon with fill and put a culvert for the creek to go under the land, the fill. Okay, scroll up again, Jonathan. And this just shows that it's an old bridge. There is some issues with it. And the bottom picture is the view looking west from near the west of the bridge. And next section, just a more view of the west end of the bridge where it just kind of ends. And then this is facing east. The bottom picture is facing east from the west end. And the last section of pictures, or there's a couple more. This is a closer view of looking east. This is looking towards where the rest area, or not rest area, it was a pullout area, view area, where people could walk across. And then there's a neat old picture of the Tejega store and signal station that was just east of this location. So right next to the bridge was this gas station. And then the last picture, I think, is a great picture. This is a historic picture of the bridge when it was still being used as a highway. And as you can see to the mountainside, which now has the new freeway where that canyon is completely filled in with dirt right now. Like I say, there's great pictures here, but it is copyrighted. So I just want to keep mentioning that in case we do so. And when I talked with the historic land trust people, they have been doing work under this bridge. They have been doing a fish rehabilitation to get the trout, steelhead trout, to be able to get up. So that was one of their concerns, is if it would affect any of their work in the creek bed. And I said, no, we would not have any purview that, but they have been working since they bought that property, they're working on environmentally getting the area back. So to me, I'm just thinking, as a subcommittee, we weren't thinking of that at the beginning, but they're working on rehabilitating the land in the area. And I think preserving this bridge, and if they have that viewpoint still there, I think it's a win-win all the way around if we were to move forward. That's my personal right now. So, okay, so that is my quick presentation. The report, it has some missing pieces to this report. They'll mention C attachment A or something. There's not those attachments in here. So if we decide to move forward with this, I'll have to work with Caltrans, and if we decide to work with Amber Long again, to try to get some more information to this report. But this was all the information at the time that Caltrans could find on this bridge.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, just for clarification, the last 2 pages one of them is the Arroyo Quemado Bridge.
Oh, are they? Okay, they got stuck on there.
And the other one is the Rincon Creek Bridge. They're both referred to in the document as ones that are from the same era, obvious.
They had sent me 3 reports at the same time. So I have a feeling maybe some of these pictures just got mixed in in the reports, because I have that other bridge report, the how do you pronounce it? Yeah.
So can I just ask some clarifications?
Yes.
Because I'm having a little difficulty hearing because of the reverberation. So these last 2 pages do not belong to this bridge?
Well, they do not depict that bridge, but they're referenced in the report in that those bridges are also referenced.
Oh, okay. Well, I saw these really neat details, but I didn't see anything in the photograph.
Yeah, so
Okay.
So the gray one, that's Arroyo Quemado. If you really look carefully, you'll be able to see it. And the much lighter one, the very last page, that's Rincon Creek. So that's down next to Ventura County, if it's not in Ventura County. Yeah, it is in Ventura County.
So references to get this correct, it references to the same type of architecture or construction.
I have a question.
Yes.
And my question goes to Amber Long. Is she still with us?
I'm here.
Oh, she's good. Amber, since we don't have our usual phase 1 report for you to work off of, but we have this detailed report from Caltrans. Have you seen that? Oh, she's not seen it.
She has not seen this yet, unless, I don't think I ever gave it to you.
So, well, I guess my question, which maybe can't be answered, is this enough information for you to go forward to reform your application for significance?
I'm happy to take a look at it and then let you know. As the chairman said, I have not seen the package, but I'm happy to take a look and see if there's enough there.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, the report, like I say, it was done in 1979, and I mean, it does say it meets significance, but then it will say attachments A and B. And it's like, where's A and B? So, I think we'll have to be some more research in this. The reason why Amber is still on is I did talk to her last week to see if she'd be willing to do this nomination. I didn't want to just have us approve it and she not even know that we were thinking about it. So Commissioner Malcolm has a question.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry, I missed the context. You mentioned ownership about the surrounding, but who owns the bridge itself now?
The bridge is still owned by the state of California.
Okay.
So it's Caltrans.
So in theory, if Caltrans says, oh, we can't maintain this, let's demolish it now. There it goes, right? Then we're all back in the
they would come back to us.
Right, and let us know.
and We would do the comments.
But do we know anything about their situation, what they're thinking about the bridge? Are they maintaining it, or are they just letting it fall apart until they
They-
deem that they need to destroy it, or what?
They, you know, there's different districts. And the state of California has, get the name of it here. There's the State Cultural Studies Office, which I believe is based out of Sacramento. And so they look over all of California. And so what District 5 did, which is our district, is contacted them to see if the state of California had any objections to making this a potential designation. And they came back with the wording that they have no objections to designating the Arroyo Hondo Bridge as a Santa Barbara County Historic Landmark. So doesn't say anything about if they plan to maintain it. You know, something that they would have to come back to us, and we know bridges don't last forever. And like I said, I mentioned I saw a lot of graffiti on there. I mean, it'd be nice to somehow get rid of that graffiti. That's another whole question, you know. And it's just interesting that the owners of the land around the bridge are very much environmental preservation people. I mean, they bought this to preserve the land. So it just seems like it's a win-win to try to keep this all together. As far as maintenance, I really don't know.
Okay, another stepping stone for the
Yeah, it's
future.
another stepping
Okay,
stone there.
fair enough, I get it. Thanks.
Yes.
I grew up in Pasadena, right next to the Arroyo Seco Bridge. And when I was in architectural school, went down there often just to meditate on this marvelous, unbelievable, detailed concrete, reinforced concrete bridge. And I believe it's still in active use. They've upgraded it and seismically and structurally, and it's still active. So given that this bridge has been bypassed and that the old bridge is no longer in use, what is the fate of that bridge? This is along Mr. Milcom's questioning. I mean, can you preserve it without using it, or is there a use?
Well, the state, as we know, and just in our county alone, I mean, we've seen bridges that they've had to take out because they felt it was no longer safe. Just think of the one going to over the Refugio High Bridge, and you go to that park. What is it? The park there. There's the Old Coast Highway, and they took out 2 old bridges and they put a new one. Yeah, I mean, because it wasn't seismic safe anymore. And we lost those 2 great bridges. I mean, we lost, look at Maddie's Tavern. You know, we wanted to preserve that walk bridge and said it wasn't safe. They did the best they could to make it a pedestrian bridge. You know, and I think they ended up doing a nice job on that. But again, the bridge, they had to take it out. So I don't know. But I think again, I'm saying my personal things here. But I mean, we're here to make preservation of historic structures. We make this a historic landmark. At least there'll be photographs, there'll be all of this. Hopefully for many years, it can still be used as a pedestrian bridge. If it has to be taken down way past we're gone, at least it has been declared a county landmark, and there'll be
They'll have to
historic
document it.
reports.
They'll have to document it.
Yeah, and there'll be documents and everything of it. So, I mean, right now, they didn't say that, oh, we shouldn't be a historic landmark because we're gonna have to take it out. I did not hear that at all from the state of California.
So this is an application to investigate and potentially to designate this bridge. I would
Luga?
support that.
I want to strongly support that we proceed with the report and consideration for historic designation.
Yeah, so that's, yeah.
Okay.
So we're still in questions right now. So, is there any public comment on this?
If anybody would like to speak on this item, please raise your hand in the chat. We have one hand up. Sonia Miller.
Hi, I'm actually the architectural historian with Caltrans District 5, and I haven't spoken yet because I just taken the position up, so I'm not familiar with the bridge, but you said the bridge is not in use, right?
Correct.
It's not
It's used as a
used.
pedestrian bridge.
The pedestrian, it's used as a pedestrian bridge. Okay. Is there any way I could get back with your architecture historian and discuss this? Maybe the next couple of days or so.
The county of Santa Barbara doesn't have an architectural historian.
Okay, the architecture historian you're using.
Well, I'm sorry, we're having a hard time hearing you.
I believe they're asking if they can speak
Okay,
to
this
the
is a
architectural
new
historian that wrote the report.
a new issue for me. I didn't know about this bridge being nominated, and I'd like to find out more about what's involved.
Okay, could you restate your name again? Because I missed your.
Sonia Miller.
She's Caltrans, and it's Bonnie Miller?
Yes, Sonia Miller.
Okay.
Sonia Miller.
Sonia?
Sonia.
Sonia, okay. Yeah, I was in contact with Krista.
Okay, Krista no longer works for Caltrans. I replaced Krista.
Oh, just recently
Sorry,
then, huh?
Sorry, Krista is my supervisor. I'm just.
I was going to say, I just talked to Krista this week, last week.
You talked to Krista about this particular bridge. Okay, that's fine then.
Yes.
I'll pick it up.
Yeah, no, I've been in contact with Krista, and before Krista was a gentleman that she replaced. Yeah. And so, yeah, we're aware of it, and she's the one that came back with the information that the state.
Yes, so the cultural study office.
Yeah,
I understand. Okay, she's already dealt with this. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I've been working with her. We've been working with Caltrans very closely on all of these bridges before we try to move forward.
Yes, I understand that. Yeah.
Okay.
I actually had another question because I mean the audio is very bad on this presentation, and I couldn't quite get for the previous bridge. You were talking about removing the suicide barrier.
No.
Okay, thank you.
No. That was just that was just had to do with the Cold Springs Bridge, and if it was going to affect the integrity, which
it will not.
It was not. Yeah, the reports say it's not. So no, we were not even going that direction.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that,
yeah. Oh no, definitely not.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for speaking. Appreciate it.
Bro.
Any other comments? Public comments?
Support Mr. Salogas.
Okay, yeah, we're in final comments now.
It's a comment.
Okay, well, that's fine. That's fine. So what we're looking for here is whether we're initiating to move forward, and if we want to at the same time hire Amber Long Associates to do the nomination for up to $1,000, which is the same amount that we did for the Cold Springs Bridge, which he did for, I think it was $875. So it's like a two-part thing moving forward. But you want to do final comments here, and then we can do a motion? Any more comments? Yes, go ahead, Commissioner Malcolm.
I'm just pretty much gonna reiterate what I sent from before. This is great idea, and I appreciate the idea board of the bridge, landmarking the bridge. However, hiring someone to do it is where I have to draw the line of just saying no. Nothing against Amber Long. It's just that hiring somebody to do it and paying them, it's like okay, humor me with my analogy, please. You need water. You got many options. You got a drinking fountain, someone's selling bottled water for $1, and then somebody's selling artisan water for like $5. It's like, okay, it might take some effort to go back and forth to the drinking fountain a lot. So maybe just spend the buck. You have the bottled water, you can sip it wherever you are and going. But the artisan water, this is what we're doing. We're paying for like artisan water, hiring some kind of consultant to do that, where we can just maybe go to a university, speak with a professor. We got 2 great universities where we can go through the political science department or the history department, get some students that that we can give them as a project for the semester or quarter, that they can say, hey, let's do this. Let's fill out a landmark nomination form and let's do this research on this. And it'd be a great win-win for one of the universities and for us as well. And it'll probably take about the same effort for us to go through it, maybe initially just to find the right professor to implement this, but hiring an outside consultant to do a landmark packet and do the research is like it's spending too much money. And I understand we have the money. If we don't use it, we lose it, but that's not the right way to do it. This is taxpayer money we're playing with, and we shouldn't be overspending taxpayer money. Whether we lose it or not, it's money that we shouldn't be spending as a luxury. And so, but as far as a project goes, yes, I agree that it should be done, but not this way.
Well, as a professional that used to charge for time that I spent, I can understand why Amber Long needs to charge money for her time. And the amount of time that it would take us to interface with somebody else would probably be voluntary, but would probably be extensive. Whereas if we work with Amber, I think what she has been charging this commission is very economical, in my opinion. I think we get good value for what she produces. And so that's my opinion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think this is a remarkable opportunity. This is the bridge that time forgot. We've all noticed that, the way it's geographically cut off, but it's also been temporally cut off because of that choice when it got bypassed. That was the same thing we saw in Los Olivos with the Alamo Pintado Creek pedestrian bridge. It used to be the 154 bridge, even though it wasn't even 154 at that time. It was something else. But we're so lucky that it has not been demolished. It's a remarkable stylistic statement. There are only, as we can see, maybe one comparable in the state of California that we're familiar with, and that this state consultant wrote back in 1979. That really remarkable bridge in Pasadena designed by Myron Hunt. Personally, I prefer ours. I like Doric capitals rather than something really fancy. But I think it's a wonderful, both mechanical and aesthetic creation, referring back to Roman aqueducts, with the upper row of tiers based upon a lower row of tiers. And just the history of its creation, like the Cold Spring Canyon Bridge, is quite remarkable. Having to haul all those materials up there to create wooden forms, and the incredible false work that had to hold up those wooden forms in place in order for the poured concrete to be formed there. It obviously is, at its point in time, was the equivalent of the Cold Spring Canyon Bridge, a remarkable innovation. So I think this is a great opportunity. for us to increase the chances of its preservation. We've talked about the issues of maintenance. We've talked about issues with what if Caltrans doesn't want to keep it up, et cetera. The best thing we can do is to landmark it. And we've been pointed out to us that we need to abide by our mission and stick to that if we want to protect things. So I'd say this is a great opportunity. It may end up being a little more complex in terms of the research. So I would expect we'll probably be hearing back from the professional regarding what we can find out. We obviously will probably want to contact Caltrans once again to see what might have been updated, what it can be found in Appendix A or Appendix B. But I think it's definitely a good point to start and see what we find out with the idea of ultimately designating this a Santa Barbara County landmark. It is a landmark, whether you like it or not. People know this, and they will immediately be able to identify with it. Oh, that bridge, yes, I think that's special. It should be preserved, and that's exactly what we want to do.
Mr. Malcolm.
So one more point. Also, as far as landmarking it goes, we can just do it next month like that. We don't need all the research. All of us know of the bridge, know about its history. We know enough to say, hey, that justifies for making it a landmark. Just fill out the form, whatever the location, et cetera, the why we're doing it. We don't need a whole research report. That's something relatively new in the last 20 some years that we started doing more research and having that done. But before now, we just filled out a report, the form, landmark form, and we voted on it. We don't need all that research. We don't need to pay for all this research. All of us know right now that this bridge should be landmarked. That's justification enough. So if we just want it landmarked, boom, let's do it next month. Let's fill out the form, do it next month. But, we don't need all that research.
I'm just curious. If we hired Amber Law professional to prepare the nomination, is it nomination? And the designation, or just
Just the nomination, the resolution, we've been doing ourselves. So like for Cold Springs Bridge, Amber Long Associates did the nomination, and then Commissioner Nye did a draft resolution. I looked at it, County Council looked at it, and we worked on that to do our own resolution. So as a commission, we did the resolution, which is how we would do this. But as far as the putting together the nomination, we had Amber Long.
Oh, and that's true of that would be true of this bridge.
This bridge, we would do the resolution.
Once the nomination is done and the resolution is drafted and it goes to the Board of Supervisors.
It goes to us first.
And then what? And so what is the designation? Is it already designated?
No. What we're doing today is just discussing whether we want to move forward with a nomination.
Yeah.
And if we decide yes, which it kind of looks like it,
right.
And there's two parts, moving forward, but also hiring Amber Long to do the nominations. There's two things we're deciding today. Then the nomination would be done. However, we decide to do it. Once the nomination is done, then we start working on the resolution, and usually I rely on Commissioner Nye to help me with that, and County Council. We get all of that done. Then we will schedule it to be brought to HLAC for designation as a landmark.
That's another thing.
We did today for All Saints.
Okay.
Once we designate it as a landmark, we have the power to make a landmark, but it has to be within 30 days of our designation at the Board of Supervisors, 30 days, 90 days of our making it a landmark for the Board of Supervisors to finalize and approve.
Right.
So, we're looking at a process here that will probably be spring 2025 by the time it goes to the Board of Supervisors.
With respect to Commissioner Malcolm's comments about taxpayers' money and how we spend it,
no one is more respectful of that than I. My sense of our purpose as a commission is not to not spend the taxpayers' money, but to spend it wisely and to get bang for the buck is the vulgar way to say that, but to do the marksman's job, to shoot the eye and get the target and get this thing designated. And I think hiring Amber Long as a professional to prepare the paperwork and reduce our time and our necessary follow-up and so on and so forth is a good thing. I would support hiring Amber Long. Her fees are very reasonable and her work is excellent.
I'll agree with your sentiment there but the thing is, we don't need anyone to do any research. All of us know enough about that bridge that if we just fill out the form line item in the forms or our landmark designation forms, just fill it out, bare bones. We can schedule it next month and we could all vote on it next month without a long-winded explanation. We don't need the historic report. We don't need any description or anything, so like a detailed description of anything. We know enough right now that we want to landmark it because it's worthy of landmarks. That's what, if you just want it landmarked, you don't have to pay anything. We just fill out the form, put it on the schedule next month, and designate it as a landmark. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be more than that.
We need to move on here, but if we're finished comments, any more comments? I mean, I want to do a final comment. I understand where Commissioner Malcolm is coming from, but I feel that what we're asking for is not that much. And as far as just quickly filling out the form, I think even though it's not stated that we need to have all of this, I think it's important to have a really good history of this in writing in the nomination for future generations to see. And I think the research that needs to be done for the nomination is justified. I just looked back at the Chaffee residence. That was my very first nomination to try to do. And Commissioner Nye gave me all the information from one of his nominations. And I took about a month to try to go through and get everything cultivated. And then I gave it to Commissioner Nye, and it took him another month to edit all of my stuff because I overdid it. And I mean, it turned out 4 or 5 months, of between us trying to do it. And it is a lot of work if you want to do correct information, which I personally think is necessary to have in there. So I'm going to support the up to $1,000 for Amber Long, and I definitely support moving forward with the nomination. So someone would like to do a motion for this?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I would just point out that this is up to $1,000. It's only expending as much as it takes to fill out the nomination. And obviously, we could choose to spend more if we need it, and we can choose to spend only the minimum. But I think the upside of what we're proposing to do is so much greater than the misuse of funds. We're clearly using a line item part of our budget that's for this. That's why it's set aside. So I would move that the HLAC initiate an application to investigate and potentially designate the existing Arroyo Hondo Bridge number 51-27L as a County of Santa Barbara historic landmark, and approve professional services by Long Historic Preservation Services for work up to $1,000 to create the nomination if HLAC decides to move forward.
I'll second.
We have a move, we have a second. Open any discussions on the nomination? Let's do a roll call vote on this, left to right.
Commissioner Duncan says aye.
Mr. Wichita?
Aye.
Mr. Steinwach? Commissioner Nye?
Aye.
Commissioner Snow?
Aye.
Commissioner Sluga?
Aye.
Mr. Malcolm?
No.
And Commissioner Coffman Gray, aye. Okay, we'll move forward and I'll contact Amber Long to start work. Thank you very much. Our next meeting is October 14th, October 14th, 2024. Also, I want to also make everyone be aware that November, it is a different date. It's not the second Monday because that's a holiday. That's Veterans Day. So we're scheduled the Monday after. So I don't have the calendar in front of me. Wait, maybe I do. I don't have it on here. Is it the 23rd? It's at the Monday after the holiday. Yeah, and it's agendized that way too. Okay, I adjourn this meeting.